Good morning, everybody. Sun's just about to come out. We've got 6 headlines that have came out over the last, day or two, and it really proves that this thing's really falling apart. We're going to get into the Amazon selling out of their warehouse space. They're getting out of a lot of it. I think there's 5 that they're getting out of. And just remember, I want you to go back. I'll put a card up when we get to that story about those guys were selling their stocks as well about 8 months ago. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, several the big guys are starting to scale back. No, they have already started. Almost a year ago, they started getting out. So it's really important to watch them. Watch what those guys do. That's how they got to where they are. It's by being big thinkers, by paying attention to the things that are coming, and paying attention to the news. And that way, we can be financially prepared, physically prepared, spiritually prepared as this thing comes, because it's coming. There's no doubt about it. So what do you want to hit first?
Seems to be. Oh, and if you would like to see a pond update, and we're actually setting on part of the new pier right now, and you can see me knee deep in the mud. All right, first one is Amazon closes abandons plans for dozens of U.S. warehouses. They've decided to reduce the size of their sprawling delivering operation amid slowing sales growth. They've abandoned dozens of existing and planned facilities around the U.S. They have either shuttered or killed plans for 42 facilities, delayed opening of additional 21 locations. They plan to close 2 offices in Maryland. That's going to they employ more than 300 people, so they're going to be without jobs. They have one here. There was one in Shreveport, and they kept delaying it and delaying it. Last I've heard, they're not even doing any hiring, and they've completely shut down building any more of the facility.
So I guess they don't think that it's going to be a perpetual upswing for the rest of history. That's just a humongous red flag to me. They're
I agree.
slowing down. They're starting to pull back, rein back. Hey, the economy's cooling off. They're raising interest rate. People are fixing to not be able to afford the things that we sell, or a lot of them. I'm not saying Amazon's going out of business, but this is obvious what they're doing.
Yeah, the chief executive, he has pledged to unwind part of the pandemic-era expansion that settled Amazon with too much warehouse space and too many employees. And they've actually said during the second quarter of Amazon's workforce, it shrank by 100,000 jobs. They're even trying to sublease some of their facilities because they're vacant and they're just sitting there. So they're actually trying, I guess, get people to rent their own facilities.
That's a big blow.
And then not only that, they said, but because they're tightening their belt, it's also causing issues with the organized labor. So apparently people have been trying to make it a union labor, and they actually went and filed a lawsuit.
That's the last thing they want.
And so it's creating some issues right there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Just kind of keep your eye on it and see what happens.
Absolutely.
And then talking about interest rates and all that kind of stuff, prices going up and down, houses sales, they have below list priced in the U.S. for the first time since March 2021. It says the average home is selling below its asking price for nearly 18 months. Because if you guys all been following the housing market, which we have, there's been bidding wars. Everything's been going above asking price.
Yep.
There were even problems with appraisals trying to match the sales price, and but it's starting to cool off. It says this comes as the supply of homes it grew, which is good for buyers, and so the sale of new homes have started to slip to the slowest pace since early 2016, and mortgage rates are going up.
It's been a supply and demand thing the whole time. The housing supply. Interest rates were low. People were buying the house they wanted at the highest price possible. And now there's a lot of people that are going to get to buy a house still, but they're not going to get quite the house they wanted because interest rates are going to be a little bit higher. So that's going to be interesting to watch unfold as interest rates go even higher.
Yep.
And people are still at the toppy part of the market, and as the economy starts to really cool off. So this is and this isn't financial advice, but if you're thinking about buying a house right now, just maybe think a little bit longer, just kind of, I mean, you never know. There might be some deals in the future. That's what I'm banking on. We're selling 3 rental houses right now.
Right. Here's another interesting thing I don't think people have stopped to think about. So all these people in the last 18 months that have bought through the bidding wars have bought more than the asking price. What happens if they get in a jam and have to sell their home? They're literally going to have to pay to get out of that house, or try to do a short sale, or I mean, that's something people don't think about when you pay top dollar or over top dollar for a house.
That's hard to see at the closing table too, isn't it?
I've seen it. The sellers one time didn't even want to come to the closing table because they had to sell to get out of their house. And they actually did power of attorney, poor guys, and I signed for them. They said that they didn't want anything to do with it. So something else to think about and just pay attention to. I know that sun's coming up.
The housing market's cooling off just like we've been talking about. I'd like to hear all the people that said it wouldn't. People were pretty ugly in the comments, said they could straighten me out on the housing market. I'm still waiting.
They did. Now here's changing the subject a little bit, still talking about money, but I haven't seen this really on the news, so I'm curious why it hasn't been talked about. But the IRS mistakenly published some taxpayers' confidential data. About 120,000 people had their information mistakenly posted on the IRS website. Apparently it got posted around October the 26th, and they're not sure how long it was up before they found it and took it down. They claim that it didn't include any Social Security numbers, income figures, or information that could harm an individual's credit. But yeah, it accidentally posted data from tax form used by both individuals and tax-exempt organizations.
If you want something to be screwed up, let the government run it for a little while. That's 100% for sure. They're going to do the wrong thing every time. But it's not a free market. It's just like, and even firemen and the police force and all these government-run things are broken. They're just broken. It's so, I know some really good people that are firemen.
And police officers.
Several around here that don't do it anymore because they said the politics was so bad. It was their dream job. That's all they wanted to do was be a fireman. It was, that's their dream job. And now they don't want anything to do with it because the politics was so bad. It was, and they told me a little bit. They didn't get too far into it, but you can only imagine the bureaucracy in being the fire chief's son or cousin or all this garbage. Get in the comments if you've had or experienced anything like that. But if you want something to be broken, let the broken government run it, and that's where we're at now. It's the truth.
I'm afraid so. Yep, unfortunately.
Yep.
All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the bird flu is back and apparently threatening Thanksgiving turkeys. So there was a little bit of an outbreak, and then it kind of went away. And they said the outbreak has worsened, and unfortunately, we've had record high U.S. poultry prices. Nearly 130,000 birds were impacted in Minnesota. This bird was discovered in a backyard flock, and it's the first confirmed case since May. Unfortunately, the previous bird flu has shrank the eggs as well as the turkey eggs, including hens, pointing to price, pain for the consumers. The disease has been behind the death of more than 40 million birds, making it the second worst U.S. outbreak after 2015.
I keep hearing about the bird flu. I've made several videos about it. I've been following it since
last
September, I think. It was close this time of year. And it's kind of like nothing came of it.
Well, it did. Prices did go up for a little bit, but then it went away a little bit.
Yeah, but it's very strange because I don't think these are bad numbers. I'm wondering if this year is going to be the year of if the bird flu is as bad as it was over this last year. I wonder if the end of this year, the first of next year is going to be the real start of hard to get chicken.
I see what you're saying. So it's trickling down.
It's like everything is looking to be like it's going to be 2023 is going to be that's going to be the really bad.
I hope not.
Hard. The start of the really bad hard times, and maybe 2024 we're looking at Thunderdome stuff. But just know the bird flu is real and it's out there, and it really does hurt the supply of birds. I eat a lot of chicken.
Yeah, he does.
I eat a lot of chicken. It's a cheap protein.
And a lot of chicken eggs.
And my favorite is the organic chicken at Sam's.
That is good.
The chicken breasts aren't that thick. They don't look like pterodactyl chicken breast. They're small. They look a little bit closer to barnyard chicken breast. I don't know if you ever.
There's a difference. There is.
I don't know if you've ever cut up a barnyard chicken, but they're much smaller. You can grow them to any size you want, but a lot of times they pump them up. But just remember, Sam's Club organic chicken is really good, and it doesn't taste putrid. Somebody in the comments said the protein they've been eating has been tasted like it's rancid, and it smells rancid. So check them out.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. When you go to cut them up, you can tell a huge difference. All right, we got 2 more stories, and these kind of tie together a little bit. Let's go back to China and Russia and Iran. It says they're slowly ganging up on us. It says everywhere you look, pretty much, they're creating some form of alliances. I think China and Iran just did one the other day. They signed it in 2021. It's like a 25-year agreement. Russia's kind of been upset with China because they didn't really come up and support them about Ukraine. But it seems like in the last year, they're starting to put all their differences aside, and they talk about it how they're creating these alliances with each other, even though they're having their own issues between each other. Their hatred for the U.S. is overriding all that. So they are starting to create alliances with each other, and their main focus is hostility against the United States. And they said alliances, in terms of what Washington says, is totally different. They're still having their own issues, but they are putting them aside. They said they're negotiating the tensions between them to focus on, and they quoted, the hostility towards the United States. That didn't sound good.
No, I hate talking about that war stuff. I just don't know enough about it, and I feel like about 90% of the information we get is propaganda.
Probably could
but there's
be.
no doubt that the scariest part of the whole thing for me is we get so many goods from them.
Yeah.
Our medication, my metal saw that I use, it's a Makita. It's awesome. I promote Makita all the time. It's made in freaking China. I did not know that. It's like all the things that I thought there was a chance that it wasn't made in China. The parts are made in China, or the whole thing's made in China. So,
if you notice, a lot of them, the parts are in China, but then they'll put underneath it assembled in the U.S. So you think it's U.S.
They could wipe us out
Yeah.
without firing a shot, without doing anything. They could just stop, That's the scariest part, other than them, and they could take Taiwan, and they make the lion's share of the computer chips that would shut. It really is the biggest black swan, I guess you could say.
It's something just to
of our
keep an eye
lifetime
on.
that very well might happen.
Yeah. One last thing, then, talking about Taiwan, apparently a retired Taiwan tech tycoon has pledged $33 million to help raise civilian warriors. And I did not realize in Taiwan, it seems like there's a 4-month mandate for civilians to go through some kind of military training. And I didn't realize that. But he's going to pledge $33 million of his own money, and he's going to raise civilian warriors, they put in quote, to defend against a Chinese invasion.
That seems to be really smart. 4 months to train.
I think that would be
Just
actually.
to give them, that'd give them, everybody a good kind of a basic, hey, this is what you do if this happens.
Right.
And that seems pretty smart.
And on Wednesday,
that
would be something, Wednesday, Taiwan vowed to counterattack without exception should any of Beijing's forces cross into the island's waters or airspace. So they've not actually come out and made a statement like that before, so something to keep an eye on.
Well, that story's a little bit strange because it said
it is.
Robert Tasso, he's 75 and lives in Taiwan. He was from Singapore. He's denounced his Singapore, now he wants to be 100% Taiwan. He's really wanting to get in there. And he's pledging $33 million to train 3 million people. That's $11 a piece.
That didn't quite add up.
That doesn't really add up, and a lot of times we catch this as we talk about it. But this is where'd you get this
This was actually from one of the subscribers. They emailed me this, a
Right.
news article.
And they said 13 million of it's going to go to train 300,000 marksmen.
Mm-hmm.
So training, military training for 300,000 marksmen for
13 million.
13 million doesn't really add up either. But
Maybe the numbers are off
yeah,
or something.
maybe. I don't know. If you know, if you got any information about this, put it in the comments. Is that the last story?
That's it.
That's a lot. That's a lot to talk about on a Sunday morning.
It is.
But guys, have an awesome, awesome day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Later.